Welcome to Shore Perspectives, a community feature of WESR Radio, highlighting the spirit of the shore from those who call it home.
John Morrison, owner and chef of Mallards at the Wharf. I've been here a little over 20 years now, and there's just a couple names when you hear, about the Eastern Shore. Diddy Mouse, the famous working waterman, knew him well, and he's just one of those iconic names. Dow's down in Deep Creek, it was that spot where he'd throw your plates and silverware at you, and you just enjoy the food, and it was always good, but it was just a legend of the shore. And here at the Wharf, we've had a few of those legends as well, some stories. So 1842 is when the business was founded, Hopkins and Brothers, Stephen Hopkins, and it's been moved a few times, kind of disrupted, if you will. It was actually at one point, to my knowledge, floated by barge across the water to put here to its final resting place. So we hope it's its final resting place. I don't intend on moving the building anytime soon. But yeah, so it's been a really cool journey that this building has taken through the years, almost 200 years, of history right here. And you can see it in the woodwork and the counters. A lot of it's original still. So it's just one of those things. You come into this place and you feel just a certain energy around you. It's pretty cool. So I guess probably 15 years ago or so, there was ghost hunting and spirit watching was really trending and getting cool, and there were some local guys and gals that were doing it, and they were Eastern Shore Paranormal, and they approached me and said, hey, it's a cool old building, we've been doing some other old structures, would you mind if we came in and checked it out? And sure. So we set a date, and they came in with their crew and set up several different cameras and different microphones and all kind of stuff, and we had our good core crew that were excited about it as well. So we planned to spend the night in the building, and not everybody made it through the whole night. Just people got a little chatty, and we were trying to see what was going to happen. So we got to about 2 a.m. and then the crowd started thinning out a little bit. And as it thinned out, seemed to be a little more activity happening according to the hunters, and they got some cool readings, and we didn't hear about it right away, but a couple of days later when they deciphered everything and did a little more digging of their own, they found that there was apparently an old waterman or town person named Walter that frequented Hopkins quite often. And whether he was a customer, an employee, or sold to the Hopkins, I'm not sure. But the story goes that Walter spent a lot of time in this building. Well, they happened to capture some images on some of their high-test thermal cameras and everything. And we do not have this image anymore. I wish we did, but it was an image of a face right through a doorway going into the kitchen. And sometimes I've heard from other employees that they've heard whistling or just sort of little movements. Could it be the wind? I don't know. Could it be something else? We don't know. But the whistling is definitely, I've been here a few times where I've had to come in the middle of the night, whether it be an alarm or I forgot to turn the stove off, something crazy, and just turning the key in the door. As soon as that door opens, when this building is vacant, it gives you a little, little feeling, a hair on the back of your neck or whatever it may be. It's just something a little different. So it's a cool spot to be. We're blessed to be here, and we love the lore and the history of this building and the entire Eastern Shore for that matter. So when you come in here and look around, there's a lot of little nuances and history in this building. It's a great spot to hang out and just enjoy. The Historical Society has done a great job of preserving that bit of history, especially with the renovation of the general store now. There's a lot of information, and if you really look and think about living in that time, you can get a feeling, for sure. Well, it's so cool. Right when you walk in the door, it's almost like you're stepping back in time, with the old hand tools that are here and the grain bins. It's a whole feeling, it's a whole vibe you get from something that has this much history and this much lore to it, so it's definitely worth coming to check out.
Heather Comstock, and I live in Onancock, Virginia. We did the first annual ghost tour for the Halloween weekend, and I did some research and did a ghost tour on Friday night of 10 stops, so it was really fun. The proceeds from the ghost tour are going to the Eastern Shore SPCA, which is a cause very close to my heart. So we were really happy to raise some money for that and have some fun for the Halloween weekend, which, we're hoping is going to turn into something really, really great. It was wonderful this weekend, so it was fun to do. I researched this for about 6 months, and I came across a resident in town who told me a pretty great story, but the The reason he told me the story was he said it needs to be anonymous. He doesn't want anybody to know what house it is. And so I respected that. So I'm going to tell you the story just as sort of general. But the story that he told me was actually passed down from the housekeeper of the family that had lived in his house. And the story is this. It's the story of a little girl named Dorothea. And Dorothea was the only child of an affluent family who lived in town. And as was the thing in these days, Dorothea was really raised by the housekeeper who was also her nanny. And the nanny noticed from a very, very young age that Dorothea could see things that other people couldn't. And the housekeeper was someone who believed that there were things in this world that we couldn't see. And so she did not discourage Dorothea in seeing these images and talking about things that she had no right to know, because the housekeeper knew that, there were more things in the world than, things that we can see in person. And so one thing that Dorothea consistently did was play with another little girl who was her age, Lily. So at this point, she was, when it became really, really apparent that she could see other people. She was about 6 or 7. And she would play with this little girl, Lily, in her room. And they would talk and play with toys. And the parents at that point, they had noticed that she would talk to someone else. But, that was not their problem, really. It was the housekeeper's problem. But the problem became that people in town started to talk. Because when Dorothea would go out with the housekeeper, she would say things to people that she had no right to know, like, your grandmother said hi, or she knew when someone had passed away, which maybe wasn't common knowledge. So it was becoming very aware in the town that there was something wrong with Dorothea. And the parents... the Salem witch trials were in Salem, but there were witch trials on the Eastern Shore. And apparently that factored into the family becoming very concerned about their reputation, but also Dorothea's safety at that point. So they tried to discourage her from talking to these people, but she was a little kid and she was lonely. She didn't have anybody else to play with. So Lily was the person that kept her company, and she wouldn't stop talking to these people. So the family decided that they would send her to the Hospital for Persons of Insane and Disordered Minds. And they sent her there, and at that point she was 8 years old. And they told everybody in town that she had gone to live with a relation in Europe, and she went to this insane asylum, essentially. And they hoped that she would be cured of whatever was wrong for her. But unfortunately, a year later, she passed away very suddenly, and there was no recorded cause of death. An 8-year-old just died. She was 9 at that point. And they really thought that was going to be the end of it. And the parents were devastated that she was lost, as was the housekeeper. And so they would not get rid of any of her things in the house. And the housekeeper reported after her death that she would still hear Dorothea play with Lily in her room. They would run, they would talk, toys would move. So Dorothea had come home to play with Lily, which is an interesting story, but there were some question marks after that. And the question was, did Dorothea come home to play with Lily? And the housekeeper believed that yes, absolutely, that was the case. But was there something more nefarious with her death? Did Lily kill her to come home? Because her death was so sudden, there was no cause of death. The other very odd thing was there had never, as far as anyone in town knew, been a little girl named Lily who lived in that house. Never. And it's a small town, so people know. So the question was, if Lily had never been alive, what was she? So nobody ever answered that question, and apparently to this day, you can still hear little girls playing in that room. So that's the story. So I think it's very interesting. It's very sweet, but it's also really haunting too, because there is that part of you that's like, what was she? Who was she? Because no one can tell you that. So it's a really enduring mystery, I think, and I'd sure love to visit the house, but obviously I won't.
For Shore Perspectives and WESR Radio, I'm Kelly Gaskell.